Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new season of the Purposeful Life Show with your host, Adrian Starks. I'm excited to share some new updates of the show with you, starting with a new look, sound, and energy, as well as a variety of guests coming aboard with intriguing topics of conversation. I hope you enjoy the new level of energy that will be brought to the show. Thank you for all of your support since the very beginning in 2019. Wow, it's been 3 years already? Because of you, the Purposeful Life Show is now in the top 5% of all podcasts globally, and we aim to get it into the top 1%. Continue listening to the show and share it with others. You can also now listen to the show on my Facebook page at Adrian Starks, where you can comment in real time and communicate with me about your aha moments. Thank you again for all of your support, and let's make this one hell of a year and be purposeful about doing that. Wishing you all much love and success. Times are changing as we see things that were once cost-effective becoming stress-effective. The cost of living has gone up while many still live paycheck to paycheck. Instead of waiting on costs to go down, what if we got smarter and made our own changes about how we spend and save our money? How would our future look if we became more financially educated? Stay tuned to our brand new episode. Hi, my name is Adrian Starks, and welcome to the Purposeful Life Show on the Champion Up Podcast. This podcast is for the courageous creators wanting to create a life of meaning, adventure, and fulfillment, all while helping to make the world a better place. I'm happy you're here, and if you're new to our show, make sure to give us that 5-star rating and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. Also, connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at Champion Up. It is always that one idea that could be your breakthrough. It's time to step into your courage and believe the champion in you. Welcome to the Champion Up Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Adrian Starks, and I am so excited to have you back for another amazing episode on this Purposeful Live Show. But you know what to do, my courageous creators. Before we get started, make sure you go and download this podcast, subscribe to it, and leave us a review because we would love to hear from you. Today is a special episode. We have an amazing guest on named April Ngalot. And April, can you say hello to our audience?
Hello, everyone.
We're so excited to have April on today because she's a specialist in something. I'm going to explain this a little bit later. But the title of our show today is called Financial Education, the Smarter Way to Live. And April's going to show us how to do that. But a little bit about April here. April is a financial education campaigner with World System Builder, and she is passionate to share, inspire, motivate, and educate people about money matters. She specializes in transforming people's financial wellness through financial education. She and her dedicated team of educators holds weekly workshops in their financial centers, as well as taking these classes to universities, small businesses, and organizations. April has been involved in the financial industry since 2012, and she is passionate to share, inspire, motivate, and educate people to have better financial wellness and to have a better future. Oh my. Welcome to the show, April.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm very humbled to be here today.
Well, I'm excited to have you here, and I'm sure our guest is because this is a big thing, financial education, because we are rolling into a new era now. And we are noticing that a lot of the generations before us are having troubles with their retirement funds. They're having troubles with the things they thought they would have later in their life. And if we can teach ourselves now of what to look for, what to save, and what to do with our money, it can make our future so much better. So I'm excited to hear from you more about this. But before we get started, how long have you been doing this particular type of work? I know in the bio I said 2012, but were you inspired by this kind of work before then, or did it just start in 2012?
That's a very interesting question because how I got involved in this industry, first of all, was my family was affected by this same industry that I'm in right now. And what I mean by that is, well, we've been in Canada now, my family and I, for about 15 years. But in about the 8th or 10th year that we've been here, we were really struggling financially. Nobody sat down with us and taught us that, you know what? when you buy a house, this is what you should do. When you get a car, this is what you should do. Or when you
Yeah.
have kids, this is what you should save for. So as a result, like we weren't really spending very wisely. We were just spending money here and there, sending money back home to the Philippines. And as a result, like our debts were up to our head. And to the point that all of our money was being spent on just interest and debt payments and taxes, not leaving very much behind for expenses. And that's why we really sought out help from different institutions, which we were not able really to get. But one of our friends who's now involved with this company as well that I'm in told us that, hey, we can help you. And ironically enough, it wasn't even for me, it was for my parents, but I was just washing the dishes while they were teaching my parents what to do. And when they
Mhm.
left, I said, I want to learn for myself too. So that's how I got involved.
What an excellent way to get involved. I love that. And look at you now. You actually are leading families and helping them and also the millennials with learning more about financial education. And speaking of that, you do work with millennials and young families that are just starting out in their lives, jobs or in the workforce, and they're living paycheck to paycheck. And I know all about that before I became the person I am today. That is hard to do. And so they don't have enough time or enough to pay off their debt or even plan a long-term program. And so this is where you come in, is you help them with this. Now, why is it so important for families to understand the power of financial education? Because they understand they need to have finances, but where does this financial education really take them to the next level?
All of our lives, especially going back to the older generation, like for example, the generation of the baby boomers and even the Generation X,
Yeah.
we were taught traditionally that the only way to become financially independent is, honey, you go to school, you go to get a good job, and then hopefully somewhere in the middle you live life and then be able to retire. But that's the only thing we learn is we know how to work for money, and that's what the traditional educational system is for, to create the skills and the mindset for us to succeed in the workplace. But the one thing that we were never taught is how to handle that money. So it's
Yeah.
okay if your expenses are like very little, and hopefully you can figure out the rest. But that's exactly where financial education comes in, is what to do with the money that you earn. And I know that sounds very simple, but it's actually one of the most complicated things that most Canadians are having struggles with, because their priorities are not really there, or they don't know what to do with their money. And as a result, if they just keep spending on one thing and don't focus on the main things like saving for retirement and whatnot, then they're left with nothing at the end of the day. So that's really why financial education is so important.
Great answer, because you just struck me here. You said that it's how we hold our money, how we administer or maintain our money that leads to a better result of our finances down the road. And most people, including myself, before I was aware of how important this was, I would just spend money. I mean, I would go from paycheck
Mhm.
to paycheck, just paying bills, paying interest on things, and not really realizing that, wait a minute, I could be saving this. And so we don't want to get into that, what we call the hamster wheel of just going around in circles every single year. And I love the fact that you're helping families do that. Um,
Mhm.
what is something that you wished you would have known earlier in your life? What would you tell your younger self during that time that you know now?
What I would tell my younger self is, when I was young, I was really conservative in a sense that I was really afraid to take risks. And in high
Yeah.
school, my life was just go to school, go to the library, and I used to work as a peer tutor. So that's all I did was, I was really in school the whole day and then go home. And I
Hmm.
never was exploring, like, for example, some simple things like join the school play or join a club or even join sports. And I think that very conservative attitude, I've changed quite a bit from how I was about 7 years ago. But if I was a little bit more adventurous and took more risks, I think that I would have been able to explore a lot of different things and learn faster if I took more risks when I was younger. So that's something that I would tell myself when I was younger, that take more risks, explore life.
And that's a good suggestion. I think a lot of us are afraid to take risk. I knew I was when I was younger. And I think this philosopher, Viscard, he said that if you do not take risks, you cannot grow. If you cannot grow, then what else is there?
Yeah.
And taking the risk is really important, because what we're doing is we're stepping outside of our comfort zones. And so taking the risk on ourselves and investing in ourselves is very important. This is why we're talking about financial education here today. So
Hmm.
in your life, when you were going through the experiences with your family, what was your turning point when you just said, hey, I want to change this story and I want to improve my financial future and for my future family down the road? When did you say enough is enough and you need to do something different? When did that happen for you?
I think I said that to myself many, many times, to be honest. But I think one of the turning points was really that night when my parents' friends came over at our house and they started to explain to my parents exactly how they could help us get out of debt and save more money. And as I was washing those dishes that night, I kept telling myself, and that time I was still 18 or 19 years old, just going into college, and I was really unsure of myself at that time too, because all my life I've been watching my parents, like not just my parents, but even my family friends kind of work and work and work. We know how to work for money, but we don't know how to make money work for us. And I kept
Oh,
thinking
I
at
like
that
that
time,
one.
yeah. And I kept thinking at that time that even if I studied to become a doctor or a nurse or a pharmacist, which were the careers I was thinking about at that time, I thought to myself, if I don't know how to handle this money, I'm going to end up in the same situation anyway. I could be earning 80, $90,000 a year, but spending 120,000 and I'll be in debt. So
True.
that was the time I told myself, it's not really about the money that you earn, it's how you keep it and how you manage it. And if I don't know, like, in sports, it's easy for us to understand that, okay, for us to win a basketball game, we need to know the rules. But if we
Hmm.
don't know the rules of the money game, how can we win? So that's
True.
when I said, I need to learn. That was the day.
I love that. And I love this phrase that you use. And you say at the end of the day, it's not how much you earn that counts, it's
Yes,
what you keep.
absolutely.
And that's so interesting, April, because I remember, I think a couple of years ago, I was in Las Vegas for a workshop. And you have workshops too, we're going to talk about a little bit later. But I had a workshop I went to in Las Vegas, and I met a
Mhm.
gentleman, and I was really inspired by him. He was a wealth advisor. And I said, hey, what things do I need to invest in to increase my wealth? And the first thing he told me, he says, that is the main
Mhm.
mistake that most people make. He says, you must learn first what it feels
Mhm.
like to hold that money. And then when you learn what it feels
Yes.
like and how to hold it, then you can delegate it. And I was like, whoa.
Mhm.
No, and you're bringing me back to this moment because of what you're saying with your expertise, because I'm like, that's what he told me, and I'm like, wow, it is so important for us to understand this. So I'm going to play the advocate here a little bit. So what about families who are struggling? I mean, they're going to tell you, well, hey, you know what, that's great, but if I had the money, I would save it. So how do you help families like that, right? They're gonna tell you that. They're gonna be like, oh, that's good for you, but I'm just trying to make it work. So how do they start? What step could a family or a young millennial take when starting to learn how to keep their money?
Actually, you sound like a lot of my clients. Believe it or not.
I
They
told you I was
always
gonna play the
tell me,
advocate here a
oh,
little bit.
this is something normal I always hear every day. And I'm like, uh-huh, uh-huh. So actually, our workshop curriculum always starts with that first thing because my belief is that if I talk to families and individuals and millennials and people about saving money, they're always going to have something in the back of their heads like, yeah, that's great if I had money and, I don't have that much and et cetera, et cetera. So before I even talk about that, I always, start with the idea that you have to increase your cash flow first. And that's why sitting down with
Okay.
us or even just attending the workshop is so important because we need to know where you stand. Even before talking about increasing cash flow, we also need to know like, okay, so how much are you earning right now? What are your expenses? And not just that, what are your goals? Because a lot of, especially millennials, like what you were saying, that we kind of live paycheck to paycheck, which kind of makes sense because living here in Vancouver, it's so expensive. So pretty much like maybe more than 50% of our paychecks just goes to rent or mortgage and then living expenses. And then there's just so little at the end of the day that most of us just think of the now, the urgent, like, okay, if
Yeah.
I don't pay my bills, I'm going to die the next month. Well, not literally, but figuratively. So if our mindset, our focus is purely just on the urgent and the now, how can we ever think about the future? So it's that enlightening, first of all, that I wanted to give my clients that, okay, I know you're worried about rent and everything, but how about 20 to 30 years from now? You're going to be in the same situation if you don't do anything today. So
Exactly.
if they attend our first workshop, which is increasing cash flow, we actually look at like where their money is going. And it's a very interesting class because very few people really sit down and look at exactly where their money is going. And they'd be very surprised. They're going to say, like, oh my God, I didn't know I spent this much on food or coffee or this. Because
Hmm.
I always tell my clients this is, you know what, is the little amounts that kill you, because it's the
Hmm.
$5 coffees, the $3 things, and you add it up at the end of the month. It's actually what you could have saved or put away that will save you.
Absolutely. And I love the idea of you guys starting with the income or the cash flow because people need to know first what are you doing with your income or how much of it is coming in and where are you spending it? Because this is where many
Yeah.
people get in trouble is that they are spending on things that are really unnecessary and they're also spending on things that really they could do without or not even use. And when they realize this, they can say, "Oh my goodness, I'm spending like what, $7 on this kind of coffee every single morning and it adds
Yeah.
up 5 times a week, 7 times a week." And it's like, well, if you want that cup of coffee, great, but did you know you could probably make your own cup of coffee and
Yeah.
save that money? How do we dial it back a little bit? So I love the strategy that you guys have in place because it is the thinking that people need to have because we all have money at the end of the day. I have been in situations in the past where I said, "Well, I don't have the money." I was one of those people, but when
Mm-hmm.
something came up and I needed to pay a bill or do something or put the money somewhere, I found a way. And we're very resourceful to do that. And so I think that teaching people the way that you are, of showing them how to first, like, you're getting money, how much of it you're getting in, and what are you doing with it first, and they can understand how to delegate it later. Because, like you said, you can have a lot of money, but if you don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
delegate it and administer it correctly, it's going to go in the wind, and people are going to be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, what happened to this?" And
Yeah.
this happens to people actually who win lottos or who get a vast amount of money. They don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to delegate it and they end up in more debt at the end than when they first started out because their expenses shoot up out the roof and they're not worrying, they're not thinking about, can I really afford this? And I love the fact that you also help young entrepreneurs too and millennials because when for once in my experience when I was younger, I spent a lot of money on rent month to month. I
Mm-hmm.
live here in Vancouver now, but I used to live in Seattle, and Seattle was very expensive and actually is still going up. I would spend thousands of dollars, and I looked at the end of the year how much I spent on rent alone. I was like, whoa, that could have really went somewhere, or I could have found a way to maybe have a roommate or found a way to live maybe a little less comfortably but still manage my money correctly. So I
Mm-hmm.
love the fact that you're doing that with people and helping them to understand how important that is. But what is the greatest lesson that you have learned this year for yourself? Because we're talking about helping people learn things. What's the greatest lesson you have learned this year, April?
Oh my gosh. I love to journal and I love
Oh,
to
me
meditate.
too.
Yeah, it's so I think I have like 10 journals over the past few years that I've been writing my thoughts out. But one of the lessons that really stood out to me this year is regarding like just my interactions with people. And actually my mentor said it very well is that you can never say the wrong thing to the right person and you can never say the right thing to the wrong person.
I like that.
Yeah. So, especially for business owners and entrepreneurs, we tend to really attach ourselves with the outcome. Let's say, for
Oh,
example, I'm
yeah.
meeting a client, and then, you kind of course, it's very important to visualize the result and how you want to help this person. But at the end of the day, you can never really control what other people are thinking about. And the only thing you can control is how you feel about it. So, for example, if I'm meeting a client and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to close this deal, it's the best day of my life. And then I come in there and they say, you know what, maybe next time. And then I go home thinking, like, oh man, I thought I was going to close this deal and blah, 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 and all these things. But what I've really learned this year is that sometimes when people say no to you, or they really say not now, because you never really
Hmm.
know what they're going through. Maybe they're going through a divorce, maybe they're going through a hard time at work and they just need some time to like dial back and think and, reorganize their priorities. Or maybe they're just not in the right mindset. And that's what I mean
Hmm.
by wrong people. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means that their situation at the moment may not allow them to see what you're telling them. Like what my mentality nowadays is just I want to be there for people because I never know what they're going through, and if they're not open enough to like tell me what they're going through, maybe they want to go through it alone. I just want to let them know that hey, I'm still here and I'll always be ready when you are ready. That's the greatest lesson I've learned this year.
That's an excellent lesson to learn. And I want to go back on the word no. You said not now. And I think, too, sometimes people say next opportunity, right? So it's like people are waiting for the next time to say yes. And it's so important because when we're trying to help people, the idea is that we have to just let them know when they're ready, they are ready. And I'm pretty sure you get this a lot when people are hesitant about their finances. They're saying, well, not now, or maybe next time. And I'm pretty sure that, you probably say, well, if you meet me next time, then you're going to need me a lot more than you are now. So
Yeah.
for the audience listening today, when you're with someone who wants to help you, I encourage you guys to really take on the opportunity to get the help right then and there. Because one thing that gets people is neglect. That is a powerful thing that really pulls people into a different direction when they don't do the thing they need to do right now and take care of it. So you're in a financial situation right now. You've got some struggles going on. You don't know where your money is going. You don't know when the next money is coming in, or you may be living paycheck to paycheck. This is a powerful episode for you to listen to because it is how you manage money that determines how you end up with more money later. We think that, well, the more money I get, the better my life will be. Not necessarily the case if you don't know how to manage it. And I'm
Yeah.
laughing because I have been in the situation where I've worked jobs in the past and I had raises and I'm like, oh my goodness, I got a bonus. I got all this extra things coming in. And the first thing my mind was thinking is, oh, now I can get that thing that I really don't need, but now I can get it. And then you buy it, then you're waiting for the next paycheck to come around. You see the cycle,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen? It happens. So it's great to have a financial advisor and someone like April who can guide you through workshops and help you. Her team, they specialize in this. I think a couple of things I wanted to touch base on here that your team specializes in. Well, one is debt management. We talked about income and retirement planning, which is important. Also, insurance, investments, and education, and training and support to manage money. These are some key things that will help any business owner, entrepreneur, or even a working class person that's working a job 9 to 5 to be able to manage money more appropriately. Thank you so much, April, for that information. I want to know a little bit more about you for our guest here. There's no trick questions here, by the way. Who has inspired you throughout your growth as a successful business leader and innovator?
Actually, one of the co-founders of our company, he's actually one of our mentors and coaches for the financial education campaigners, and he has really inspired me because he actually started up this company about 30 or 40 years ago, and he was a refugee from Vietnam.
Okay.
And he basically came to the United States, basically literally from a boat, escaping the war from Vietnam
Mm,
and in hopes for a better life there in the US. So he basically went to the US, went to college there, got into social work. And then his story, I believe, is sort of like a typical person here in Canada looking for opportunities. And he was working in social work for about 10 to 20 years until he kind of hit a wall. And that wall was like, he stopped finding purpose in his life. His life
mhm,
became work, home, kids, party, work, kids, home, party, work, kids, home, party. And he was
wow.
looking for something more. And not only that, their family was like my family too. That's why I really affiliate with him a lot because they were struggling with debt, with growing kids, growing responsibilities, no one really teaching them how money works. And he had this purpose in his heart that there's got to be more families like me. And he sought out a way to really teach people about financial education. And that's where it all started. And because of his amazing campaign and relentless work for 30 years, he's been able to reach Canada and all parts of the other worlds teaching about financial education. And now, obviously, he's very wealthy now, but he doesn't. And what I really like about this mentor of mine is that despite the money that he earns, he's always so grounded. He's so humble and he's so kind and he's so accessible, even for people like me, that if I wanted to have a conversation with him, he's so ready and available to teach us what he learns. And there's no barriers to even someone like outside the industry wanted to talk to him, he would talk to you. So it's his kindness and humility and accessibility that has really inspired me to keep going in this industry.
And I can see how he has certainly influenced you. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to meet April in person. And what she just said, that embodies her as well. I know she's not going to tell you this because she's very humble.
Thanks.
However, I can speak on your behalf. This whole idea of being a leader And having the relatability, having the approach, having the humility for people is so important in today's world. And April has that. And so I can see why you're helping so many of your clients in their businesses and in their personal lives, because you have that ability to do that. For our audience listening today, they've been hearing us talk about financial education and how this is important. It's a smarter way to live. If they're facing a challenge right now with their finances, what is one step that you could give them, or one means of advice or encouragement that you can give them that can help them look at their situation a little bit differently and to
Mm.
take an action step on it?
Well, there's different kinds of financial challenges. Like it could come in the lack of money, or maybe they have money, but they don't like pretty much money comes in and then money comes out and they don't know where it's going, but they're not really in debt. Or maybe it's people like they have a lot of money, they have a surplus of money, and they have no idea what to do with it. So those are kind of like how I categorize, I guess,
Okay.
so-called challenges. But the very first thing I think, even for all three challenges that can apply to all three of those, is the introspection, just looking at your own habits, because it's great to teach people about money and debt management and saving and retirement, but it really comes down at the end of the day to how you spend and how you handle the money. That's a very first step, is acceptance that wherever you're
Mhm.
at right now. Because if you don't look at your own situation and say, hey, I need help, whether it's to increase cash flow, or maybe it's to realize where your money is going, or maybe it's to have help as to where to invest the money. If you don't accept where you are right now, how can you seek help? How can you improve yourself if all the work that you've been doing for the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years is yielding the same results? So I guess that's the first thing, is accept where you are and seek help.
I love that. Accepting where you are and seeking help. And this is important because whenever you're in a financial situation, like April just mentioned, there's three categories that she sees it as. But if you have financial challenges, whether that be not getting enough money, or you're not knowing where your money is going, or you're in debt, or if there's any other thing you're facing, the first thing is acceptance and not ignoring the fact that you need help. And I think that's the key word there, is saying help. Because if you don't get the help, you're going to continue, as April said, continue those same habits, repeating them
Mm-hmm.
over and over again, hoping things change, and they don't until you begin to start making those changes about how you're dealing with your money. And I wanted to also talk quickly about the feeling behind money. And I think that's something that really gets people, is that they see money as this, I need this because it's the only way that I can survive. And we have this feeling toward money like it's not a good thing for us, but we need it. It makes us feel icky, or only these people have this kind of money. And I think that we have to stop feeling that way in order to start handling money better and investing money better. So look at your finances right now and ask yourself, am I where I want to be? Am I where I need to be? And start getting the help. There is not one person out in this world that is successful in their endeavor that does not have a financial advisor or someone that's guiding them through their finances. There is not. They have people watching them and saying, hey, you may want to slow it down on spending this, or hey, you may want to invest in this, not in that. Everyone has it. Why not you? Why not start learning how to deal with your finances better and have a happy feeling about it? I understand. I get it. You pay a bill, you're like, man, my money went straight to that bill. And April has felt this way before in the past. And you feel like I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And when the check comes in, someone's listening to this right now. When your check comes in, you don't even see it. It's already spent. I've been there. You know your check's coming in and you've already got the bills paid for it and you're just waiting to hand it out to them. I get that feeling, but you can change that feeling. You can certainly learn a better way of dealing with your finances. And this is the smarter way to live. This is why we're talking about this. April, how can our audience get in touch with you and learn more about how to improve their financial future through education?
So the easiest way to get in touch with me is through Facebook. So facebook.com/April Finance, or you just go on Facebook and search April Finance, and I'm the first page to pop up. Or alternatively, I also you can contact me through Instagram as well. My Instagram name is April Ngalot, and that's Ngalot. So just one word, no space.
And you also do wonderful blogs too, as well. I was reading the blogs and noticing that I got a lot of great information from them. So, do you have a blog URL, or can they go and access your blog through Facebook?
Yes. So every time a new blog post comes up, it's automatically linked to my Facebook as well. So pretty much Facebook is your everything. I'll post events, I'll post details, I'll post videos. So that's where they can find me.
All right. And that's where you guys should find April. And make sure you go to her Facebook, like it, and follow it, as well as Instagram, because there's a lot of powerful and good information out there for you regarding how to deal with your financial future. And even now with the holidays coming up, I know you guys are stressed out a lot. It'd be great to check out her site to see how to deal with your finances through this holiday season, because I know you guys are going to be spending a lot of money. So you're going to have a feeling about it. And this can certainly help you feel a bit better about what you're doing and how you're showing up out here with your money. So, April, is there any workshops or anything that our guests could possibly learn about, or could they access that through your Facebook page for the events?
They can actually access it through our Facebook page, but I can just do a plug here. So we actually do two workshops in a week, every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. and Saturday morning at 10 a.m. So those are at our financial center. I'll just post them on the Facebook actually, so that
Okay.
they can access the address and the details and everything. I really encourage you. It doesn't really hurt to learn more about money.
It certainly does not. Here's the thing: if you want to have a more purposeful life, a more meaningful life, you cannot ignore money. Money is one of those tools that we use to educate ourselves more, to see the world, to invest in things that we feel passionate about, to have better experiences. And money should not just be seen as this thing just to pay bills. It should be
Mhm.
seen as a resource for you. This is important because if you really want to have more happiness and fulfillment, I'm not saying that money is going to give you that directly. What I'm saying is that money can open the door for opportunities to be more happy, to have more
Yes.
space, to have peace of mind, to have more time with your families, to take better care of yourself. These are the opportunities that open up when you learn how to work with your money. And this is what April teaches. And I'm excited to have her here today on the show because I have learned some gold nuggets from her and I have written some things down, and I hope that you have too. So, April, I wanted to leave our show here with a question that our audience, they always wait on in anticipation. We call it the courageous creator question. What happens or what could happen to our society, meaning our millennials and young families, when they become more financially educated? What could happen to our society?
That's a great question. You see, everything in life starts with thought, and our thoughts are comprised of different things. We think about our family, we think about our loved ones, we think about our career, and most importantly, whether we like to think of it or not, we think about money. And
Mm-hmm.
as you were mentioning earlier, money is like sometimes people think that it's an uncomfortable topic. We know that we need it, but we're not necessarily in line with it. And that's kind of because we're thinking of money as a commodity in a sense that is scarce. We're always thinking, I have to
Mm-hmm.
work because if I don't work, I'm not going to have this money. And if I don't do this, I'm not going to do this. But you see, if we think of money in this way, we're teaching our brains to be scarce. So we have this scarcity mindset that I'm going to take this job because if I don't, somebody else will. You see, it's
Mm-hmm.
so restricted, and that's the feeling that you're talking about. It's almost like we shy away from it because we know that if we don't do this, et cetera, we're not going to have this certain thing. And
Mm-hmm.
if we're more financially educated about our money and know exactly how money can work for us, then we're enlightened, and we opportunities start to open up for people and say, hey, I didn't think of it this way, that I didn't know that money could work this way, or I didn't know that I could invest in this way. And all of a sudden, instead of thinking in a scarcity mindset, we think in a more abundant mindset. And when and if our mindset is more abundant, then actually, ironically enough, opportunities start to come to you, not just money wise, but career, life, fitness, love, like everything. It starts to open up for that. And that's kind of how I see why I advocate for financial wellness, because it
Mm-hmm.
kind of translates into everything. And when you have more money, you have more peace of mind. And you see, money is not the most important thing, but it's pretty important.
Mm-hmm.
And it enhances what is already within us. And what I mean by that is if you
Oh,
love
I
to
like
give
that
back
one.
to people, yeah, if you love to give back to people, you will just enhance that and become more of a philanthropist. Or if you love like treating your family, or you love like taking vacations, why not take your friends, take your family? So it enhances what you already have. So if we are more financially educated, then we can have more of this abundant mindset that translate into everything else in life and will actually change how you see, how you live your life. And that's what I believe, that if everybody just starts to have this abundant mindset in one aspect of their life, which could be money, and that can translate into every other aspect in their life, and they can have a better life. That makes sense.
That makes total sense. And that is an amazing answer. I love that, April. Thank you so much for that. And
Thank you.
you're welcome. I wanted to go back and elaborate on that as well, too, because to the audience listening today, I know you will be thinking this, and I love to think on the other side of the box here for you. Well, when I get enough money, then I will focus on doing better with it. No, you got to do better with what you have now. And this is what April has been talking about today. It's all about habits. What do you have now? Do you know where you stand financially? And if you're living from paycheck to paycheck, or if you're in a struggle with family, or if you're in struggle in school, who knows, with student loans that are going on out there and things of that sort, look at where you are right now and get a clear picture of where you want to be with your money, and start learning how to use what you have in a better way. That's what this is all about. Go to April's Facebook page and to look at all the things that she's providing, the information, the workshops, the events, the blogs. Oh my goodness, they're amazing. Really begin to learn more about financial education. You're never too young to learn it, and you're never too old to learn it. We're in a
Yeah.
state now where education is powerful. And here's the thing: wealth comes from the power of knowing things. People around the world, successful people in finances, they do certain things a certain way every single day. You do not have to be on the scale of brilliant, what people would say, or have this amazing, amazing skill set, but you do need to know how to use your money appropriately.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, April, for being on the show today. It was exciting to have you here, and I look forward to having you back in the future.
Thank you so much, Adrian. I had so much fun today.
It was great, great time, and I learned a lot. And I'm going to be using some of these tools that you have taught us today in my life as well to continue to improve my financial future. Because here's the thing: we have to keep growing forward. We have to continue to better ourselves, and that's how it works. When you're listening to this podcast, listen to it over again. Listen to it over again, and get into your mind that wherever you are, you can improve your financial situation. But it's going to take some steps. It's going to take some learning. And as April mentioned, it's going to take you getting the help. Until then, I encourage you all to be that courageous creator in your life. This is the Purposeful Life Show and the Champion Up Podcast with myself, Adrian Starks, and thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed our podcast today, don't forget to give us that 5-star rating and subscribe to the show so you don't miss out on the powerful life-changing content on future episodes. Also, make sure to go to championup.net for even more life-changing content. Until then, I encourage you to be the courageous creator in your life.